Hello and welcome to the Happiness Is podcast with me, your host, Bruce Aitchison from Happiness is Egg Shaped. And this one is actually the second time we've tried to record this. The first one was an absolute cracker, but there was some obstacles in our way, let's just say, to release it. So our special guest today has very kindly agreed to come back and redo it and give us the exclusive to why we couldn't release the first one. Now, I'm very excited by this because I've known this guy for a long, long time, and I have, from afar, watched his meteoric rise as a player and now as a coach and as a bloody good bloke. And he's also the man who sings our theme tune, because he has got quite the set of pipes on him. He is big and handsome. He's a fantastic rugby player. He is the one, he is the only Mr. Kelly Brown. Yes.
Hi, how are you doing?
Yes, I'm very well, and it is good to see you. Now, let's start from the very beginning. Where are you?
I am in St Albans right now. So I came down. I moved back about a week and a half ago, so it's been a bit of a whirlwind. I think in future years, everyone's going to say, so what did you do during the pandemic? I'm going to say I moved house about 3 or 4 times. So it's been an interesting year, but everyone's got their challenges, and at least we've not been bored.
You've definitely not been bored. So you're now in St Albans, but you were in Glasgow. Now, we recorded a pod and I got very excited, and then you gave me a phone call and said, HA, I'm leaving Glasgow and I'm going back to Saracens. So we decided not to release it. So this is us, ding ding, round 2. So you've left Glasgow and you've gone back to Saracens. What was the background to that?
So it was basically, as I said, I got a phone call about July time, asking if I'd like to go up and take the role up at Glasgow. So I was really excited and that sort of stuff, and so agreed to that. But it was really short in terms of the time frame, and we had to get our family up there because my oldest daughter is doing exams and that sort of stuff. So it was pretty stressy, and then we had a few issues up in Scotland just with the family settling. Obviously, because of COVID, my wife and kids weren't really allowed to meet anyone. We ended up in Glasgow in a Airbnb, which was far from ideal. And so the family found it really hard. And then about mid-January time, I got a phone call from Mark at Saracens and said, there's been a change here. So Alex Sanderson has gone to Sale, and so there's a vacancy, and we wondered if you'd be interested in coming back. And so I spoke to the family, and as I said, it's been tough to settle. It has been tough to settle, and so the family said, we want to go back. And it was as simple as that. Well, I say as simple as that. I then had to speak to Danny Wilson and to Mark Dodson and Nathan Bombrays, and I got to say everyone at Glasgow and the SRU were just unbelievable, and so compassionate to the situation that I found myself in. They were disappointed, but they completely understood. For family reasons, it was the best fit for me and the family to ultimately come back.
That's amazing, because it's obviously you've got your priorities. Rugby is very important, so is your career. But when you leave that training ground or leave that stadium, you spend more time with your family than you do in the game, and that was what you made priority. But now you've disappeared back down there on your own and left them in Glasgow.
Oh yeah, but they're going to follow it. Is it going to follow? Yeah. So as I mentioned, so my oldest has got exams, and so we can't move now. So she needs to stay and do her exams, and then they'll finish sort of around about June time, and we'll come back down here and we'll get our house back. And so we rented our house out, and so we'll get that back. And they're very excited to sort of get back to a place they know well, and a place that all of them have got a lot of friends.
So, returning to the Saracens family, and we've heard a lot about Saracens, and it's been a roller coaster in the last sort of 2 to 3 years, I suppose, at the club. But you've got a strong belonging there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd 10 years at the club before I went up to Glasgow. It's a club I've got a lot of love for, and over the 10 years we had a lot of highs over that time. Obviously, it finished with a fairly major low with all of the salary cap issue and with being relegated down into the Championship. But that in itself, I think, is in a funny way is actually quite an exciting opportunity, because we get to do it all again, and because there's no doubt that as a club we've made some errors, but I think a lot of the way that Saracens operates, in terms of the culture, in terms of how they care for people and genuinely care. I think people outside say, "Oh yeah, of course they do. They just give you a load of money," but it's not that. It's the care. It's the fact that every captain's run, so Nigel Ray comes in and just sort of says hi to everyone and shakes everyone's hand, and he doesn't need to do that, but he does it because he genuinely cares about the players and the staff, and so we've got another journey, another adventure, another challenge, and hopefully another brilliant 10 years in front of us.
And going to Sarries must have been a big deal. How does it come about? How do you end up getting the call? Is it the agent? Is it a player that you know? How did it work that you ended up at Sarries way back?
Well, it was my agent. And so my agent said to me that Saracens could be interested, and Saracens at that point had a fair bit of media exposure, because the previous summer Brendan Venter had come in as the head coach, and him alongside Edward Griffiths, who's the chief exec. So they'd come in and basically let about 20 players go, and there'd been a massive turnaround in the playing staff. They'd let a couple of All Blacks go, a couple of superstars go, but there was a feeling at that stage that Saracens had always had superstars but never actually done anything. And so they said, no, we're going to focus on the culture and the environment, and we think if we get good people in a good environment, it's going to lead to success. And then to fast forward, so my agent said, listen, Saracens are interested, and the head coach would like to speak to you. So Brendan Venter would like to speak to you. And I was like, oh yeah, of course. So I got the phone. I think he's going to try and sell the club. So what's he going to say? And the first thing he said to me was, so Kelly, so why do you want to join? And I was like, what? I was thinking, hold on a second, are you not meant to be selling this to me or what? But he said that because he wanted he wanted me to prove, that I was passionate about the project, which at that stage I didn't know a lot about it. So I sort of mumbled a bit of an answer about I want to challenge myself in a different league and all this sort of stuff. And then I went down and met him, and we showed up at the training ground, and it was locked up, and it was a bit of a sign that it was the right fit. And so he showed up, opened the door into the physio room, and the alarm went off. And so Edward's the alarm board, and he's like, oh, it's a battle. It's a famous battle. And what's the code? It's a famous battle. And I was like, well, it was the Battle of Hastings in 1066. And so we put in 1066, and it worked. And it worked at 6 p.m. And so I think it was a bit of a sign. I think it was a sign then that I was like, oh yeah, so yeah, it's a good fit. In saying that, I'm just hoping that it's been changed now, or anyone can go into the training ground and break in because they know the code. But I'm just assuming that 10 years later it's been changed.
Well, between recording this and this going out, can you make sure you speak to somebody at Sarri Security that they've changed the code and it's no longer 1066?
Exactly. I'm going to break it.
So how did they know that you were a good person? Where does that come from? It's never in doubt. Don't get me wrong. It's never in doubt. But
I don't know what to say to that. It's really speak to other players, to other coaches. They say, and we still do this now. So any player that comes, there's a thorough. I'm not sure if investigation is the right word, but there's a thorough process to find out is this person the sort of person we want in our environment, and we don't always get it right. And there have been a couple of people that have come in, have found it hard, have not really fitted in, and have left. But it's such an important part because we believe that if we've got good people in a good environment, and they're talented rugby players, it's going to lead to a bit of success. And on the success thing, it was something else that I was asked by them on the first. I came down and I met them, and they said, "So why we're here? So what's the point of Saracens?" And I said, "Well, it's to win, is it not?" And they said, "But why? Why? Because even if you win, even if you get a cup, it's got to go back. It's never yours. So what's the point in all that effort if you don't even get to keep anything?" I was like, "Well, yeah, but it's the memories." And they said, exactly. And that's why we're here, is to make some memories.
Nice.
And so if you go down to the stadium, which is now called the StoneX Stadium, above the tunnel, and the last thing you see before you go out onto the pitch, it says, "Let's make some memories." And I just thought that it was amazing, and it was so clever. So they never spoke about winning; they always just spoke about, if we do this, and this, it's going to be a brilliant memory, and that's all we're chasing. Now it's evolved a little bit over time with a bit of success, and we do now sort of speak a bit more about winning. But I just thought it was such a good way to approach it, and that was memories on the pitch, but also off the pitch, of which I made a lot as well.
And we see some of them with you and Jim Hamilton doing your carpool karaoke.
Yeah. It's stuff like that. So just essentially, like, just messing around with our mates. So we work hard, which we do as any sort of half decent rugby team will do. It'll work hard, but also when we're off the pitch, we have a lot of fun and we enjoy each other's company. And I've been fortunate there to get on some amazing trips. So it's to send us once or twice a year on trips all around the world, which we're seen from outside as a bit of a gimmick. But for us, it was about us as a group making memories together and spending time together, because when you're at home, there's always the pressure to go and train and to get home and to go and see the family or go and see other friends or whatever. When we're away, it's just us as a group. And so we spend that time together, because if we understand each other better, then on the pitch it's going to help. And we got to do some pretty cool things on some of these trips.
I'll bet you did. I heard a story about Exeter once. This was a while ago, before they started winning, and they had a bonus structure where I think if they finished in the top 4, they got a week in Benidorm or something. If they finished in the top half of the table, they got a weekend in Blackpool. But if they won it, they got a week in Vegas. And that was everybody. But I don't know if that was ever true, but I kind of like that idea. It's like you're saying about making memories. There's the memories you can make with a trophy or a medal around your neck, but those don't happen for everyone. And they can be quite fleeting. That's the one in Cool Runnings where the coach said, I think Julius asked him, "Why did you do it?" And he said, "Because I wanted to win. But if you're never enough without the medal, you're never going to be enough with it."
Yeah.
And I love that. And I've listened to so many things during this period of people saying you have to enjoy it. you had to be passionate about it. You have to celebrate the success, and you boys obviously enjoyed celebrating success, and you had so much of it.
Yeah, and also it wasn't a bonus. It wasn't a bonus structure that we had, but you do things like so. I remember in my first year, so in pre-season we went to Biarritz, and in a week there, that's an unbelievable spot. And we trained, but we also got to enjoy ourselves. And then we played. I think it was 4 games. Played Northampton on the Sunday. On the Monday morning at 6:30, we flew out to Munich and went to Oktoberfest for a day. And so we got to this place, and so we got there at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Walked into the beer tent, which are these like sort of massive halls with about sort of 5,000 people in them. Walked in, there's a guy getting carried out at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Thinking, well, this is going to be an interesting spot. We were there until 10 o'clock, and then we had to jump on the train and get the train back to the airport to fly out that night. And one of the guys got on the wrong train and ended up missing the flight and all this sort of stuff. But then even more nuts. And this is a professional team, obviously. And so we trained the next day. And so we trained at 2 o'clock the following afternoon. And the coach said to us, "So listen, we understand that you guys are probably not going to be in great shape for this. All we ask is that you show up, work like hell, and learn in the session." And so everyone just pitched up and did it and didn't complain and did it. But it's a sort of thing, what an amazing memory. So I'm still going to speak to like all my mates, that I played with in that season and say, what about that? What a memory that was. What a memory that was, as opposed to all of the games. There are certain games that stick with you, but stuff like that, what an amazing memory.
Right, here's one for you. How many games in your career can you remember the score of?
Yeah, there's a few, but I think I counted it up once. I think I played over 350 professional games. So I played a lot of games. And there's a few, but not a lot of them.
And it's amazing because so much of professional sport hangs on the result.
Yeah.
Scotland at the weekend, they lose by a kick. They could easily have those fine margins that we hear about and all those kind of things. But those memories that you've got weren't hanging on a fine margin. Really, they were. And they're made memorable because of the people you shared them with. And that's the point I've come to in life that I think has happened through sport, but now the more I can see, the more I can apply it to life. It's build relationships, share experiences, make memories. Those are my 3 things. And rugby has allowed me to do that. And I'm getting to speak to people like you and to chew these things over and to hear your memories. So it's an absolute joy. Now, what makes me laugh is you are wee Kelly from Melrose, and you're now Kelly Brown, professional coach at Saracens, 10 years. You've got a trophy cabinet full. You've been Scotland captain, but it all started at the Melrose Club, and that's a great grounding.
Oh yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, yeah. The only bad thing about it is it's too close to Gala, but apart from that, it was what a brilliant place, to grow up. Like I started playing when I was about 5. I think I started playing rugby at Ball Boy at Melrose, and it was the great Melrose teams of the 90s. So you had your Chalmerses and your Redpaths and your Doggy Weirs and Graham Shield. It was pretty much the Scotland team.
Yeah.
And that was even before it was even before the game went professional. And so what inspirational figures that I had around me all the time. Like I'd be in the tunnel with them, I'd be doing all this sort of stuff, and they treat you well and treat you as a Melrose boy, and you always were like, well, I want to one day, I want to grow up, I want to play for Melrose, I want to play for Scotland, all this sort of stuff. So I was incredibly fortunate, I think, to be brought up in that area, and with the influences that I had around me, and I think that luck has sort of carried on. Yes, I've worked hard, which I have, but I consider myself fortunate to have been given the opportunities that I have, and to have been able to achieve a bit of stuff. And but there's still a lot of things I want to achieve, and I'll keep on working hard and see where it takes me.
And do you think you've become the Kelly Brown you've become because you could see it? It was something that was real. It was happening there in front of you. There's a lot at the moment around rugby in certain areas, and it doesn't look like there's too many barriers, so they can't achieve. Did you look at Carol Hogg and Doddy Weir and Graham Shield and Craig Chalmers and Brian Redpath? Did you look at these guys and think, well, that's just what happens here?
I'm not sure if it was that. I was definitely inspired by them. Like I was definitely inspired by them because I saw them, turning out for Melrose, and they were really good. Like because that side beat everyone, and they were brilliant. And to get to ball boy for them, and we'd have crowds of 5,000 or 6,000, and it was just amazing. It was amazing. I used to love my Saturdays. I'd go down to the green yards. I'd ball boy after the game. We'd be out on the pitch for an hour or two afterwards. Like Dad's in the bar, and then we'd go home. It'd be Baywatch, and then the Gladiators, and then Blind Date, and then Casualty, and then bed. That's a pretty good Saturday.
That is apart from Casualty. That is absolute gold. You missed the A-team, but I'll let you off with that one. But that is class.
That was on a Sunday, the A-team, and I was banned from watching it. And so my brother and I got banned because we used to kick the crap out of each other after. Oh well, to be more honest, he used to kick the crap out of me afterwards. So we got banned from watching it.
I love it. And then you played Scotland Sevens, you played for the Borders, and could you see the pathway? Could you see where you were going, or were you just making the best of where you were?
I didn't play Scotland under 15s, so they had a Scottish schools under 15s back then. I didn't make that. It was funny. I always thought as a kid, I always sort of wanted to play for Scotland, and always had this kind of weird inkling that I thought I would. It's maybe easy to say that now in hindsight, because I have, but I did always have this feeling. But then I didn't. I remember as a 14-year-old, and I didn't make Scottish schools under 15s, and being absolutely gutted by that. But it probably helped because there's a bit of fuel added to the fire. And then I was lucky. I played under 16s. I played 2 years under 18s. I also got into the Scottish Institute of Sport, and so Bob Eason was coaching me, and he was a brilliant guy for me, a brilliant mentor, and someone that I owe a lot to, and so I had him there. He was guiding me at school. I had Rob Moffat, who obviously well, who then coached me at the Borders as well, and Scotland Sevens. So I had some really good coaches around me that sort of helped me, and I also had my dad's influence, who I never wanted to waste any ounce of talent that I had, and I didn't know how talented I was, but it was hammered into me of the story that he would tell me all the time of these two players from Melrose, who were very, very similar in terms of talent growing up, apparently. One of them worked unbelievably hard, and got 60 odd caps for Scotland and is a Lion. The other one didn't achieve as much, and I never wanted to look back and think, oh no, what if? And some people are fine with that, and some people don't want to go on and play for Scotland and the Lions, and they want to have a different life, and that's completely fine. But I really, really wanted to, and as I said, I never wanted to look back and think, oh, I could have done that if maybe I'd just done a bit more.
Geez, you've got some CV though. And talking about trips, what was it like being in the Scotland Sevens squad?
Oh, that was amazing. That was amazing. So my first, I was still a student at the time. So it was 2004. I was still a student in my final year, and I got called up. And the first one I went to, it was Hong Kong.
Yeah, I was there.
It was amazing, amazing. And that year, so there was 24 teams, and so I think after the first sort of 2 days, because it was Friday night and then Saturday, and then the finals day was Sunday, and after the first 2 days, it got split into 3 different sort of tournaments. So 1st to 8th, 9th to 16th, and so we won 2 of our pool games and lost, I think, to England. But as a consequence, so we went into the plate, and then we won the plate. And so we played in the second last game of the tournament on the Sunday. So we're in it the whole way up. Whereas the following year, we actually got into the cup, but then lost in the quarterfinals, and we were done. And it was rubbish. And so we got, well, it's just a bit of a, okay, we're done now. And there's still another 4 or 5 hours of sevens to go. And so to be in it right up until the second game, the second last game, and our final was against the French. And as you know, in Hong Kong, for some reason, everyone hates the French. I mean, there's literally a chant: "Stand up if you hate
the French. Stand up if you hate." Yeah, I was there.
And I've got no idea why. But it was amazing. And the place was bouncing. And it was my first experience of really playing in a big stadium with an amazing crowd. And I was like, wow, this is unbelievable. And I loved it. And I loved the sevens. I played probably 5 or 6 tournaments on the series. And then I also played 3 tournaments to qualify for the 2005 World Cup. So the European qualifiers, which were in Georgia, and then in Russia, and then the final. And so the finals to qualify was in Magaluf in July. Genuinely. And so it was nuts. And so we showed up at the hotel, and it was an 18 to 30 hotel. This is all true. And so we're trying to get to sleep the night before a really important tournament. So we need to qualify for the 7th World Cup. And we can't get to sleep because the bloody cabaret is going on beside the pool.
Oh, I'm going to get in so much trouble. My mum's only feedback on these pods are that I laugh too much and she can't hear what the person says next. But I'm loving that. I'm absolutely loving that.
It was ridiculous. Honestly, it was ridiculous. I was young and a bit so naive at that point. I'm phoning down to reception asking if they can turn the cabaret down. Genuinely. I remember sitting on the phone, we're trying to get to sleep.
Hello, is that Grandad Brown?
Yeah, exactly. What's the thinking? It's an 18 to 30 club hotel. What do you expect?
Who was the Scotland Sevens manager that booked that?
Who was it?
Was that Pump? Was that John Manson?
No. It was before Pump. It might have been Roy. Laidlaw. Either Roy or Pete Gallagher.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it was mental. I mean, on the plus after we qualified, it was it was a good night out at the end of it.
Yeah, I'll bet it
But
was.
just looking back now, I'm like, who arranged that?
I would love that to happen now. I mean, there's no way that's going to happen now. No
No,
way is
no.
that going to be allowed. But those we're back to something you said earlier. What a memory that is. I was playing a Sevens tour at Magaluf in the middle of the summer.
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I played for Scotland, a World Cup qualifier. It was an important Sevens tournament in Magaluf in July. Like, doesn't make any sense, but
there's somebody at World Rugby going, right, where will we have the qualifiers? Where will we have what about Magaluf, that hotbed of rugby sevens?
that'll do. That'll do. Incredible. Unless someone just fancied a trip to Magaluf in July and thought, okay, well, we'll maybe do the tournament there.
100%. Your history with sevens, you're from Melrose, so you're from where it all started.
Yeah.
And then you played for Scotland, you played in Hong Kong, you won a trophy in Hong Kong, but then you got to take your beloved Saracens back to Melrose.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was cool actually. So when would it have been? 2012. And basically I was injured at the time. So in the January I was asked to be Scotland captain for the first time. And then I played for Sarries over in Treviso and went down in a ruck and felt something in my legs sort of go or pop or whatever it was. And it turned out it was a dislocated fibula. And so I was out for 6 months in the end. But about 3 weeks before Melrose Sevens, so around the middle of March, I got a phone call from the then Melrose president, John Reid, who's he's a family friend. So he was a vet alongside my dad and our business partners, for 30 years. And so he called me and said, one of the overseas teams have pulled out. Would you like to send a team up, from Sarries? And so I was thinking, yes, I'd love to bring a team up. But phoned and spoke to Mark McCall and said, listen, we've been offered this. It's where Sevens started. I think it could be really, really good if we send a team, just an academy team up with a couple of senior guys, and go up. It'd be an amazing experience. And so he said, yep, it will send a team and you're in charge. And so
nice.
It was amazing. I was like, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. So it's to get to go back and not being at the Sevens for a few years. And so to get to go back and just go back, I'm incredibly proud to be from Melrose. And what better day to show the town than on Sevens Day, to your friends from down in St Albans. And so I was incredibly proud to bring these guys up. And we were, and again, we were lucky enough to win it. And so again, a brilliant experience in spite of almost losing in the first round to Aberdeen Grammar School. It was 1917. And I was thinking, if we lose here, this is going to be the most embarrassing weekend I have ever had. But we managed to scrape through that one, and then we got better and better as it went on, and beat Jed in the final, which is always nice.
I remember seeing you out the back of the clubhouse, and you just looked like, right, we've got to warm up. Where are the boys? We've got to get to there. There's a game on it, and your head was just spinning. But I take it in that final, were you able to enjoy it as a coach then? Were you able to enjoy what was going on, or were you too engrossed? Were you tense because it was, I'm coming home? How did it feel during that moment in the game?
In the first game, it was rubbish because I was thinking, if we lose in the first round, this could be quite embarrassing, because there was we won the Premiership a year and a half before, and so Sarries were quite a big club by then. And I was coming back, and I was thinking, God, if we lose in the first round, this is going to be brutal. But we won that, and then after that, to be fair, we went to strength. we went from strength to strength, and then I think we put 50 on Jed in the final, and so it got slightly more enjoyable as the day went on, and then we had a brilliant night out. So we're in the tent, with the bar and the band. John Beattie Senior's band was on, and I went up and sang a song, and it was a good night. It was a good night.
Nice. And for some of those boys, the one I remember was it Niels Mort, who is the man that was sort of pulling the strings. He was immense through that tournament. What did they make of this coming back to the grassroots, I suppose? How did they enjoy the experience?
Oh, so they loved it. So someone like Niels had played England sevens, like a really good player. He played sevens around the globe. But I think all of the boys really appreciated, the history of the place and the fact that it was founded here. I mean, the World Cup is called the Melrose Cup, and so and that's the history of the place. But I was a little bit nervous about some of the younger guys, London boys, city slickers. I'm thinking, are they going to enjoy this? Like it's sort of quite rural, but no, to a man, they all absolutely loved it and really enjoyed the whole of the weekend.
And that's you played a big part in giving them that chance, giving them those opportunities, and that's a great thing that older players or coaches or committees are, when they go on tour to Wales every second year, and they want the young guys to go because they want them to experience those things. And I'll bet those guys are now telling stories about the time they won Melrose Sevens and Kelly Brown took us.
Well, it's so important, I think, that it goes back to what you've been speaking about before, and that you enjoy the journey. You enjoy the journey, and you make some memories. And that was a little bit different. And it wasn't, and we weren't really very professional. And we just sort of rocked up, and we had our sandwiches that we'd been given by the dinner ladies, and that was our fuel and stuff like that, which again is a million miles away from some of the professionalism that goes on. But what a brilliant experience and a memory that those guys have had, and hopefully, in years to come, again, when I catch up with them, as they'll say, I remember the weekend up in Melrose.
Yeah, and I've no doubt they are loving it. Now, you mentioned you sang a song there. What song did you sing?
Mustang Sally.
Of course it was Mustang Sally. What a set of pipes on you, man! Like, did you always sing? Where did that come from? Was it just at the back of the bus?
Yeah, and I did the shows at school. So
yeah, you guys always had good shows. I was jealous of that.
Yeah, so Jeff Thompson, who is still there at Earlston High, an amazing man, a brilliant teacher, incredibly passionate about doing the school shows. He does one every year, and he does gala opera as well, which I did as well in my final year at school. And
did you really? What was it?
Anything Goes.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it was in Anything Goes, which again it was a brilliant week. But Tompi, he's such a star. So he came to my wedding, he came to my brother's wedding and my sister's wedding. He played the organ at my wedding, so like a family friend, and it all stems from the support and the encouragement that he gave us to do the school shows. So it's my brother and my sister are probably both better singers. But they're potentially just not quite as brash as I am, and they don't just go for it quite as often. So
that's a brilliant thing. I love hearing this because Kelly Brown, Scotland International, not a winger, you did some really silly things. You put your head places where you really shouldn't put your head. Yet you were in shows, you were in musicals, you sang songs. You're the kind of person, to me, who does things because you enjoy them, and that then you don't need a reason or an excuse, or you're just doing the thing you really enjoy. How do you instill that in these academy boys you're working with? Because some of them, if you said to them, right, can any of you sing? Do you want to be in a musical? They would look at you like you were high.
Yeah, well, maybe, I don't know. I just really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the singing aspect, and the other thing as well. So I did it in my last 2 years. I had speaking parts. I was sort of the second male lead, which for me was a massive challenge, because, as you know, I've got a stammer, and I've stammered my whole life, and that was a big challenge. And that's the thing I would say to the academy guys: just challenge yourself, like, because you don't know what you can do if you're sitting in a comfort zone. And I remember sitting down with my teacher, so with Jeff, and going through the script and subtly changing my lines to phrases I felt I'd have a better chance of saying, and all this sort of stuff. But I remember the first night of the show being absolutely terrified, because I was thinking, am I just going to completely jam up and is nothing going to come out? And being absolutely terrified. But then I did it, and you know what? The buzz I got was just incredible. And it's probably why now I like doing after dinner speeches. I always, every time, I get nervous before, every single time. It doesn't matter who I'm speaking to, but when I'm up there and after it, just the buzz and the adrenaline I get, because I've done something I enjoy, but I've challenged myself, and I've overcome it.
I know what you mean. I love after dinner speaking. I would love to sing, but unfortunately, I've not got the pipes you've got. I was in the school panto when I was a teacher for 3 years. So having the male PE teacher as the panto dame for 3 years caused a bit of stink. But I just loved it. But you didn't do it to challenge yourself. Don't give me that. You did it because you loved doing it. The challenge just came as something that you needed to overcome because you enjoyed it.
I think I wanted to do it, and I think I always believed that I could do it, but it didn't stop me absolutely bricking myself before I did it.
Of course. But were you like that when you played rugby? Were you nervous before you played?
I used to always get nervous until it kicked off, and then we'd go. And then I'd just be like, right, okay, work on the process. Okay, so what do I need to do? And so I'd always, I'd always get nervous. But then as soon as it started,
I love this, getting to do this. The people that have come on as guests are people I want to speak to, because they're people either I know, or I know they've got a story to tell, but because I find them interesting. And I love that you're not just a rugby player. I love that you achieved what you did, and I supported you, and I was in the stands, and I like that we're mates, and I know you.
Yeah.
But the bits that make Kelly Brown, and not just another rugby player, is Kelly Brown likes to sing. He joins in the band. He performed. He likes to do afternoon speaking. He's a dad. He's a husband. You've got so much around you that makes you interesting and stories to tell. And that's what that Saracens bit, I think, was. You were more than a rugby player. You were a person who was going to contribute. So the next bit I'm going to ask you: do you realize how much a role model you are?
No, I think like it's very kind of you to say that. I just try and live a life that I feel is the right way to live, and in a lot of aspects. But at the same time, so with my stammer, so I do know, and I have had notes from other stammerers or from parents of kids that stammer, that they've been inspired by seeing me do something. I'm a patron for the British Stammering Association, and so that again is to raise awareness, and if I can inspire people to do anything, then what a brilliant thing. And I feel incredibly fortunate to be able to do that, because because it makes me feel good if I am able to inspire someone.
Well, there's absolutely no question that you're inspiring people to be rugby players, to be coaches, to people who stammer, but you're also, because you're living life in a certain way, people see, right, that's the way to be. That's how you behave. That's somebody I'm willing to follow. Now, the stammering, are you kidding me on? You perform on stage, you sing songs, Scotland captain, a professional coach who has to stand in front of some of the judgiest judging people on the planet, professional rugby players who can pick holes in everything, who know all your mannerisms. Like, go figure that one. How on earth have you managed to achieve that and continue to see value in the things that you're doing?
So I think a big thing for me with my stammer was in 2010. So I was picked to start the first game in the Six Nations, Scotland against France, and I was asked if I would do an interview for the BBC, and so I agreed. And the interview was on the Tuesday, and I was asked on the Monday. And straight away, the only thought in my mind, I had training and everything, but all I'm thinking about is, oh God, I've got to do an interview tomorrow. And genuinely, I just think about it 24/7. I'd wake up on the Tuesday morning, and the first thing I'm thinking about is, oh God, I've got to do an interview. And then I did it, and it was dreadful, really, really bad. Stammered, I stuttered, and when I did that, I would blink, and I would twitch, and I would rub my face, and I hated it. And so I actually phoned the media manager at the SRU, and I said, could you please ensure that interview's never shown? It's never shown. But it was a massive catalyst for me, because it actually forced me to confront it, and it forced me to accept that I had two options. I could either keep on blaming my stammer, I can't do this because of my stammer, I can't do that because of my stammer, etc., etc., or I could confront it and I could take it on. And so I did. I went on a speech course in the April of that year, which is, it's a 4-day intensive course. It's something I still work on now. Some of the things that we have to do are crazy. So on the third day, you've got 3 hours to go out into the streets and speak to 100 strangers. It's mental. It's just like with any so-called fluent speaker, they'll be like, why am I going to do that? That's why is to challenge us. So if you face up to it, and you've got to go up to people and speak to strangers, and then you don't sort of hold back and shy away, and then over a period of time, you actually start to enjoy it, and you actually start to understand that most people in general are pretty nice, and people aren't going to judge you and all that sort of stuff. But the big thing it was for me anyway, was about that real assertive self-acceptance and accepting, listen, this is me, it's a part of me. And the more I try and fight it, the more it's going to hold me back. Whereas now I embrace it, and I actively seek out challenges. And I've done, so before the lockdown, I did 3 radio commentaries, which I'd never done one, and I asked if I could do one, and I did the first one, and it was absolutely dreadful, and I hated, honestly, it was rubbish, and I hated every minute of it. I hated it. But then the following week I said I want to do it again, and I went back, and it was good. I was absolutely buzzing, and then I said, right, I want to do it again, and then I did it again, and it was all right, but not great. But I'm going to keep on doing that until at some point someone's going to pay me to do it. And it's not for the money. It's because I know if I can do that, I've got to a level where my speech is good enough. And if I can do that, then it would be a big achievement for me. And that's why when I'm coaching, I want to coach So I'm not going to let the fact I've got a stammer hold me back or stop me from doing anything that I want to do. It's the same as the Scotland captaincy. I understood that as an out of control stammerer, if I was the coach, I would probably not have made me the captain. But when I got it under control, which it is now, I've still got a stammer. I'll always class myself as a stammerer, but now most of the time I'm in control of it, as opposed to my stammer being in control of me.
Yeah, and I just find it amazing that you keep finding these challenges, and you've just got that determination to have a crack. Now, there's rugby to me is not just the game as we've already spoken about, and it brings opportunities. Now, one of the ones that always makes me laugh is that you are in the wizarding world.
Yeah.
Which makes me I'm not even a big Harry Potter fan, but I'm probably jealous, but I'm also full of admiration, and I think it's amazing. So how the hell are you in the wizarding world? What is going on there?
So yeah, it was a bit of a funny one. So around the time I became Scotland captain, so JK Rowling and her husband Neil started coming to the Scotland games, and so we sort of became friends. And then she wrote myself and Jim and Stuart Hogg into a Pottermore, like a back story. So I think I was a cousin of Lavender Brown. I think Jim was a relation of Hagrid. And I think the Hoggy was good at Quidditch or something like this. And so yeah, so we got written into a story, which was incredible. Honestly, it was very surreal, and it's something that people like ask me about, because I was incredibly fortunate, to get included in it.
It's so good, and to you though, she's not J.K. Rowling, is she?
It's Joe. She's Joe.
Joe.
Yeah. Yeah. So we spent a bit of time with her, and become sort of friends with her and her husband and family, and we've been fortunate enough to be invited to a couple of parties, which are quiet,
what?
as I'm sure you can imagine.
Please tell me they're fancy dress parties.
Yeah, always.
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 Does Jim get invites? Surely
Yeah,
Jim
he
Hamilton does he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he does. Yeah. So that kind of showed they're obviously not that exclusive. But yeah. So there was one a couple of years ago. So yeah, they're good parties.
Right, here's to be honest, Kelly, I didn't really want you on the pod. You are my gateway to JK Rowling. I just need you to make the intro and get JK Rowling on the pod. That's what it is. I'm sorry, we've taken 50 minutes, but I'm just going to cut to the chase. I just need her number.
You finally got it. She's lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe one day I'll get to experience that, Kelly. Yeah. You never know.
Yeah, you never know.
So how often do you see your big mate Jim? Because the two of you used to crack me up when you did your videos and thing with Saracens, and you just seemed like you got on so well.
Oh yeah, we do, and we've known each other a long time. So the first time, I remember the first time I was aware of him was Scotland under 19, and we played in the FIRA, which is under 19 World Cup, over in Chile, and England had this. And we actually called him. It's not very, very politically correct, so I apologise for this. But we called him the circus freak in the second row for England, because they had this monster, like skinhead, 6'8", looked like what's the name of the guy that plays Jaws? He looked like him in Happy Gilmore. He looked like him. And so that was the first time. But actually, we played against England, and he turned he took our line out to the cleaners because our tallest guy was about 6'3", and he was 6'8". He was literally just like plucking everything out there. And so that was the first time I was aware of him. And then fast forward a few years, and I played for Scotland against the Babas, and he actually played for the Babas. And then we met then, and then just over the years, obviously I played a lot of games with him at Scotland, and then at Saracens. And we're really, really good mates, and I saw him a fair bit when we were up in Scotland, especially at first because we moved to Edinburgh at first, and he was just around the corner, and so I saw a fair bit of him. Unfortunately, now I don't see him as much. Obviously, that we're down here, but we still speak every week, and he's a really good mate.
So, Kelly, you play with Jim at Sarries, big mate, plays with you for Scotland, but then you're playing for Sarries and then you play against England in the Six Nations. What's that like, playing against your club mates?
Well, it would have been nice to have beaten them a few more times than we managed to do, to be honest with you. It was just, it was a bit strange. It was obviously, these guys so well, and there's always just a bit of banter. The only one that ever sort of wound me up a little bit, it was Ashley. So Chris Ashton, and we're playing against him, and he's running around saying, am I allowed to swear on this or not? But saying how poor Scotland are, and how he's just a wind-up merchant. Honestly, he's just a wind-up. He's a great guy, actually. I've got a lot of time for him, but he's just a wind-up merchant. He's just a naughty kid that always gets caught. That's essentially Ashley in a nutshell. So he would tend to run around and give a bit of abuse, and then he'd run away. You just kind of get used to it over the period of time, just normal.
And what was the chat like when you would go back? Did they give you any stick, or was there any sort of banter about it?
Well, there's the usual stuff about the wooden spoon that would come out every now and again. I won a few of them, so unfortunately, I would get a bit of grief for them. But it's, you know what, it's almost worth it for those days when Scotland win, or when Scotland finish above England, which we should, by right, we should never do, because it's just a smaller player pool and that sort of stuff. So it was brilliant at the start of February. I've got to say, I did enjoy that performance from the Scots.
Yeah, that was enjoyable. Kelly, I love speaking to you. We've not even spoken about the killer bees. There's a whole load of other stuff that we can get to. So I reckon that just all signals to you coming back for a part 2. What do you reckon?
Oh yeah, I'd love to come back. It's been great to catch up. As you said, so we know each other so well and have done for a long time. And I hope everyone else enjoys sort of listening to it as much as I've enjoyed just having a chat.
Oh, absolutely gold. I love it. Kelly, brilliant to see you. All the best for the move when it happens, and all the best at Sarries. I just wish you every success. I think you're an absolutely top man, and I've loved speaking to you. So thank you very much for taking the invite for a second time to set the story straight.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man. It's been great to chat, and I look forward to seeing you again in the not too distant future.
Brilliant. Cheers, Kelly. Thank you very, very much. Absolute pleasure. Well, what an absolute gent. I've got so much admiration for him. He does inspire. He inspires all sorts because of the way he goes about things. He's just a bloody nice bloke and a hell of a rugby player. And he sang the theme tune to the Happiness is Egg-Shaped pod. What an absolute star. And yes, he had his wee dig about Gala and he had all those things, but we love him, really. Folks, I hope you've enjoyed listening as much as I've enjoyed talking and listening to the great Kelly Brown. You can catch us on all the normal places you get your podcasts, Acast, Spotify and Apple. Subscribe, please. Leave us a review if you enjoyed it. If you didn't, then please don't. You can also catch us on Facebook and YouTube. and I really look forward to you joining us for the next one. My name is Bruce Aitchison from the Happiness Is pod, and my happiness is egg-shaped.